Good evening, class. Today I want to take the time to discuss some of the things I learned in this class that I did not know and am glad that I learned about. One of the earlier topics we covered that was the first eye-opener to me in this class was the forum on net carbon dioxide emissions. I chose to research the fossil fuel industry, and in doing so, I learned just how much greenhouse gas this industry is responsible for emitting annually around the globe. According to the EPA.gov, as of 2010, this industry was responsible for 21% of global greenhouse gas emissions. I was a little in disbelief because before this class, I had thought of fossil fuels as being the primary source of all greenhouse gas emissions. Looking more into the concept of sustainability, I was intrigued to find out that one of the leading producers of these emissions, Chevron, is working hard to cut their emissions by investing upwards of $54 billion in developing technology that safely captures these emissions underground. Although I went with Chevron, there were many other examples of fossil fuel companies forking out billions to effect change in their practices. Through my research on this topic, I wanted to know what parameters these companies were using to reduce their impact on climate change. I went to look and found that many countries around the globe have started to listen to their science communities about climate change and are beginning to make conscious efforts to adapt sustainable practices. I learned about the biggest effort, which is the Paris Climate Agreement. This was the first legally binding global climate change agreement that many countries adopted in 2015, and it focuses on lowering emissions and adapting to the change already caused by global warming. Even though the U.S. has recently pulled out of this agreement because our new leader is prioritizing the economy over climate change, I still think that this was an amazing feat to have accomplished, having so many countries around the world agree on climate change. I saw too just how my company that I work for is reducing its emissions to be in compliance with the Clean Air Act that was just amended back in 1990, but is continually being updated at the state level. The next topic I enjoyed was the Week 5 Forum on Infrastructure Systems and being king for a day. It was pretty easy to think up an idea of how I would make my city more sustainable and eco-friendly. However, after digging into the research and trying to find a plan for funding and implementation, I quickly saw the many hurdles that some of our bright-eyed politicians face when tackling these issues for the first time. In the forum, I figured that to effect lasting change, we must outright eliminate the sources of pollution that are affecting human health and the environment negatively. I called for creating policy that only allows fossil fuel-free vehicles on the road by 2030. This is what I think is the most direct approach to reducing emissions, especially in my city, Salt Lake City. My plan heavily weighed on federal support for funding and enforcing because when the need has been great, as we all are seeing with this pandemic, the federal government has a lot of power to swiftly affect change. My plan laid out ways the federal government could do this by creating incentive programs for people who wish to trade in their gas vehicles and tax breaks for those buying electric vehicles. I wish I could speak to all the interesting things I learned in this class, but you all were right there with me, and I think we should really be proud we completed such a challenging course during these especially difficult times. Thank you for your amazing forum posts that gave me the insight I needed in most cases when I was lost on a certain topic. As an EHS manager by trade, I ask that you stay safe, practice social distancing, and good luck to you in the rest of your studies.